So now we're going to look at a piece of student writing from your class. What I'm going to read is the first sentence of a first body paragraph. And then I'm going to read some of the sentences that come after it. So the writer says, possibly the most effective strategy used by Edwards in the text, Sinners of the Hands of an Angry God, is when he taps into the audience's own guilt. So that's his topic sentence. Right. He's saying that it's effective when he taps into guilt. Using an individual's personal guilt is immensely effective because it not only makes the listener vulnerable, but also sets them up to believe that they deserve the consequences of hell and prompts questioning of even the most devout Puritan's faith and commitment to the church. Then the third sentence in the paragraph is, the phrase, all of you that never passed under a great... The phrase, and then quote, all of you that never passed under a great change of heart, all of you that were never born again and made new creatures and raised from being dead in sin to a state of new, and before altogether inexperienced light and life are in the hands of an angry God, prompts feelings of guilt in the audience by use of repetition in the words of all you and never. This generality and negativity encourages the listener to question their own loyalty and faith in God. So what I see there is, again, like I said, a clear topic sentence, an explanation of the topic sentence, of what that means, and then a quote from the text to support their argument. So the argument is that the most effective is guilt. And then the example is this piece of evidence. And then he explains the evidence. That's what I really like. He says, it prompts feelings of guilt in the audience by use of repetition. This generality and negativity encourages the listener to question their own loyalty and faith in God. Now you put here to then do what you want. You were pushing
to keep it.
You were pushing
further,
but that's not too bad.
No.
So how did you teach students to write like that? Now, obviously, they've had school leading up to you, so people have been working with them. You're not the first teacher they ever saw. But what did you do in your class to support that, both that type of writing?
Well, of all the assignments we've looked at have kind of led up to this, so they've been able to closely study the figurative language and the rhetoric to then be able to very fluently talk about guilt and find it. So they have the content, so then what I do in addition to that is my students write daily. Every single day they write something of length, of some well-constructed paragraph that I can then look at specific elements. So you noted how, very fluent this and focused this topic sentence is. Well, on a certain day I'll give them, maybe with the figurative language one, what piece of figurative language does Edwards use effectively in Sinners? And so then I said, I want you to answer this question with a very firm topic sentence, find you some support and analyze it. And so while they're doing that very basic, I'm walking around to look at it.
When does that writing usually happen?
That one in particular will be at the end of class. Sometimes when they come in, their warm-up is to write a brief paragraph. So at the beginning of class, end of class, to look at it.
So it might be to sum up at the end of the day.
Lots of times.
After they've been taking those notes on figurative language, answer this question. And you're not asking for an essay.
No, just a content or a body note paragraph.
Do you usually take how many sentences? Do you?
I really try to push them. I always tell them if I want an 8 to 10 sentence paragraph. If I'm only making you write one paragraph, I want it to be thought out and very fluid. So then as they then look at the length, stretching into 10 sentences, how are they going to stay on topic? Then it's my job to then, as they write daily, to walk around and to look and to stop and say, let's look at your topic sentence. Let's fix this. Let's look at how your analysis here. To then do what? Go a little bit further, keep explaining, or let's use this quotation a little bit more effectively here.
So you've actually had them start to practice writing their essay before they started writing their essay.
Yeah.
Because you had them, but you didn't just use a separate worksheet or assignment. You connected the writing, teaching the writing through the reading.
Yeah.
It was directly related to what they were doing that day.
Right.
It wasn't sort of a separate activity.
Right. So then when they have the full scale of the writing assignment at the end, writing the paper, with multiple body paragraphs and multiple elements to look at, they've already been through that concentrated thought process, and they've written this organization daily. So now when it's, much more at stake then, with a grade at the assessment.
So those daily assignments, what kind of grade did you give those?
Depends. Sometimes I might take some up to look at and give them a daily grade. Lots of times I won't put a number on it. That I just want to kind of formatively assess what they're doing. And then as we then move forward to this kind of assignment.
We've actually posted on this Prezi, in one of the next boxes, you'll see an example of one that's on his board right now. He's teaching Thoreau or Emerson.
Emerson and Thoreau.
Emerson and Thoreau. They usually go together. And he shows how he has that daily writing. What about the quotes? Because we really, there's a big focus on text-based evidence, text-based evidence. But there's text-based evidence, and then there's employing text-based evidence in a sophisticated, college-ready, career-ready mode. How do you help students with that?
One little kind of, organizer that goes with it kind of shows them different ways to integrate quotes. And it goes back to modeling. So, I give them the example or the question about figurative language and how Edwards uses it. So, maybe they haven't, this is early in the year, so they haven't done, writing up to the standard I want yet. So I'll give them an example. When Edwards says, and then I'll extract an example to use. So I've shown them, how I use it, and there's one way to do it. Showing them how to embed it within their writing, take words or phrases to kind of go through, to blend them together. So I model it and we practice different ways, and then they have this, more in-depth guide to go through. But then as I'm walking around to look, can then kind of stop and kind of polish what I need to.
It sounds like, though, if they're writing every day, short, focused paragraphs, they have ample opportunity to practice.
Oh, yeah.
And for you to see them do it incorrectly or correctly.
Right, because then it shows then with low risk and not stuff that I have to, take up in stacks at home and to look at it, at my convenience. And while they're sitting there and they're actually in the thought process, I can give them the corrective feedback they need at the moment.
How long does it take you to grade one day's worth of daily writing? Be honest with us.
Well, it depends. If I'm just looking, if it's daily writing, I'm looking usually at one thing.
Okay.
That I'll go through, and so as I read through it one time, I'm looking at that one specific element, so that won't take long. Now, looking at the final product, that's why I do so much daily writing, because I then expect a lot of those weaknesses to not then show up in this final product, if we've done that. If we hope. If we've done such extensive daily writing, so then the commentary I can leave, like you pointed out, is to really give that, next step kind of push, where I really want them to go, instead of trying to fix the issues that I never took care of in the process.
The truth is that the more that they write, the more they're going to, first of all, remember and understand what they're reading. And also the more they write, the better writers they'll get.
Yeah,
they'll be. So I think I know the research says that the more you connect the writing to the reading, the better both will become.
Right.
So in our next video, our last one, we're going to look at your rubric and just talk a little bit more about how you assess those final products.